Welcome to Classic Heart, the BMW Group Classic podcast. This is JP, and today's guest is Mike Fidowicz, a passionate automotive storyteller, filmmaker, and the voice behind the YouTube and Instagram channel Candy Showroom.
This car is the most honest car you ever see.
It's been a dream ever since I've had it.
The first time I heard that engine screaming, I thought, I gotta have one of those.
It's the joy of driving.
What's great about a BMW Classic is the community that surrounds it.
When you listen to that, that's why we're here.
Mike, how are you?
Good afternoon, JP. Thank you for having me and a very warm welcome. And I'm doing good, thank you. It's a lovely sunny Friday afternoon. Looking forward to doing some car activities this weekend and having a chat with you this afternoon.
This is absolute reciprocal because we just met in person on the shores of Lake Como. Was this the first time you went?
Yes. So just this weekend gone, we had a Concorso Ville d'Est and the neighbouring villa of Villa Erba. And that was my first time there. I was down doing some work for BMW Welt, and it was my first time being in Lake Como and kind of in that environment. I had a fantastic time. I had a chance to drive my own car there and get to meet a lot of interesting individuals like yourself.
Thank you very much. And for those two who listen in who have no clue what BMW Welt is, or BMW Welt, this is a fantastic brand experience center close to the museum, close to the BMW headquarters in Munich. And there are lots of changing exhibitions and things like this. It's an absolute fantastic place, so I would suggest to go there. But, Mike, we speak about the Concorso de Ganze Ville d'Este because BMW Welt invited you to this one. And what was your experience as a newbie to the event? Was it like you had it imagined?
It was fantastic. I'm very lucky because I've attended a lot of concourse events in the UK over the last few years. So I understand the gist of things and how they pan out and, what you're supposed to do during the day. However, that was my first time going to a concourse abroad. The environment, it was welcoming. Villa d'Est hosted the really kind of high-end automotive concourse. I managed to catch the end of Ville d'Est as I spent most of my time at Villa Erba.
Yeah.
It was fantastic though. I had a really good time. It was very elegant, very classy, very sincere as well, actually. But there was a huge community spirit in Villa Erba. There was also a very kind of community feeling at Ville d'Est. And I think it was grand in terms of presentation, but it was very easy to kind of get immersed by it. It was kind of overwhelming in quality, which is why it was easy to kind of understand. But yeah, it was very elegant, very precise kind of environment. I enjoyed it.
And now let's speak about the cars. So besides all this kind of stuff with elegance and all these things, what cars you will never forget that you saw there for the first time?
Maybe not for the first time, but there was a display of 50 years of BMW 3 Series.
Yes.
I'm a huge BMW 3 Series fan. I've owned 3 of them now. And I just really, really like anything to do with the 3 Series. I think it's a perfect all-rounder.
Yeah.
BMW Welt team brought down their collection from the Welt that they usually have on display in the 3 Series section, where they have every model of 3 Series together.
Wow.
I was walking around the back of Villa Erba and I saw the Welt Classics team unload some cars from some trailers. And I just caught in the corner of my eye an E46 that usually lives in the museum was being rolled out onto the back lawn of Villa Erba. I am fascinated by that car just because I love the E46. I think it's the perfect BMW in my opinion. And I've visited Welt 3 or 4 times now, and every time I've visited, I've always had a photo taken with that car.
Nice.
It's usually in the museum on a plinth. You can't really go having a little look around it. But there it was being rolled out in front of me by the mechanics team. And I couldn't help but just wander over and say hello and ask some questions. And then they let me sit in it. They let me open it all up, take some photos. So it might not be the most expensive or the flashiest car there. Definitely not something you would expect to see rolling through Ville d'Est.
Yeah.
But for me personally, that was the highlight of my trip. I got to get hands-on with a car that I've been mildly obsessed with. for a few years now, because it's an extremely low mileage, very rare spec E46 saloon. For those listening who may not have seen that car before, I think it's Imola red, pre-facelift, amber indicators, projectors, MTEC 1 kit, shallow style 32s, manual gearbox, early steering wheel, black leather, and the car is on 1,600 kilometers. That's around 1,000 miles. I don't think it's possible to find an E46 with such low mileage and condition here in the UK. I imagine it's really rare to find that in Germany as well. So I was a bit starstruck. I think there's something super odd about seeing a car that is usually parked under a tree in southwest London, here where I live, just in immaculate condition, and it's the perfect spec in my opinion. And it had the early M52 TU engine, which is really robust engine, really good engine. I believe it's a 323, that model specifically. And I just absolutely love that car. So I felt like a little kid in a toy shop walking around, pressing all the buttons, and the mechanics were super friendly. They let me have a little poke around it and sit in it. So I absolutely loved it.
I mean, thank you very much. Now I have another car on my list because I totally agree. And especially your vivid description just showed how much love you invest into a hobby that became also partially for profession, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we could spend the next hour talking about just 3 Series alone, JP. But I can totally understand. I think the thing about the E46, I think the thing about any 3 Series is, they hit 25 years old and they enter a new realm of desirability because their aesthetics, build quality, and what they represented is now of the right vintage, where it draws in people that are into old stuff. And people that are into old stuff, they might not necessarily be into new stuff. So suddenly this object that didn't get any attention becomes desirable purely because of its vintage. And I think the E46 is at the cusp, it's at the parapet of that. And I think that's fantastic. I've liked them beforehand. I like them even more now. I'll probably own a few others in the future. So again, that car is just perfect.
So one thing is very obvious. You love talking about cars. And you've turned it into a career with your YouTube and Instagram channels called Candy Showroom. Tell us a bit more about that.
Of course. So I've been running Candy Showroom now for a decade, for 10 years. I'm pretty sure it was 10 years last week.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank
Happy
you.
Jubilee.
And thank you. There's a few different platforms that I utilize. I am what you could describe as a relatively old-fashioned automotive journalist who's jumped into broadcasting and presenting. Because of the nature of the media industry, I rely on modern-day social media, let's say, formats to get across what I try to create, be it a short-form TikTok, an Instagram reel, a grid post, or now long-format YouTube films. I essentially document anything that I find interesting to do with cars. Sometimes I might speak about new cars, sometimes about old cars. I've got a personal interest in BMWs, so that's been a prominent feature on my Instagram page, although I haven't made a film about any of my cars on YouTube just yet.
But you should, because I think you drove down to Villa d'Este and Villa Erba in your BMW 7 Series, the brown one, correct?
Yeah, I did. You're right.
How was that reliability test?
It's perfectly fine. I love my car. For context, I've had my E38 now for over 3 years. That car's seen European motorways many times now during my ownership. I drive it to Europe 2 or 3 times a year. I've actually driven it to Italy before. I took it to South Tyrol 2 years ago.
Nice.
I have had to replace everything on that car over the 3 years, though. I bought it knowing that it needed a bit of love, so that wasn't a surprise to me. So admittedly, I've spent a considerable amount of money keeping that car on the road, but I think it's been well worth it because I thoroughly love it. Yes. Every day that goes by, it gets a little bit older and a little bit prettier. It's insanely reliable. I will drive that car to the moon tomorrow if somebody asked me to. And funnily enough, the Villa Erba trip that we met at just recently, I did not know I was taking my 7 Series there. I actually had a different car penciled in for the job, but it fell through the last second. So I find out on Wednesday that on Thursday I need to drive my own 7 Series 2,000 miles through Europe and back home. And it was perfectly fine. It didn't miss a beat. I checked the oil level before I went, made sure there's still enough coolant in the tank, and it was sweet. And because I didn't know I was taking it, JP. You said I should make a film on it. I did. We documented the whole journey.
Very good.
And there was a purpose for the trip at the end of it. And it'll probably be out on my YouTube page at the end of June. And yeah, it's a film about my own car.
So everyone tuned in, from time to time, check YouTube Candy Showroom and look for an E38 fantastic 7 Series in brown doing a continental trip. I would say it's the Continental Express story, I would say.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the plug. I think you're right. Yeah, and I think I wasn't the furthest travelled at the car event, but I was there for work, and I think I'm the only person who commuted there.
Yes,
so
very
far.
nice.
So
that's also my commute. The commute
Yes.
in my 7 Series, very nice.
From London to Lake Como. Yeah, I'll take that
love
accolade.
it. That's fantastic. But tell me, Mike, what was your first encounter with the BMW? Do you remember?
I wasn't super young, and it wasn't too long ago. I think I was 16 years old. At the time, I loved BMWs, and I liked reading about them, and I found them fascinating because my family haven't owned them, and I didn't really have many friends with one. However, my best friend's dad, and my best friend, he's my colleague at Candy Showroom now, his dad owned a E90 330i early car, M Sport kit, manual, dark grey anthracite colour with a tan interior and wooden trim. The car is absolutely immaculate, and that car took us to prom. And I think when we went to prom in that car, that may have been one of the first times, if not the first time, I ever went out in a BMW. And even though it wasn't an M car and it's not the fastest, flashiest way to get about, it was fantastic. I remember the material quality inside was unlike any car I've ever been in.
Yeah.
I remember the exhaust note sounded fantastic. It has the early N52 straight six engine, twin tips.
Wow.
I was in a suit in the back of the car, and we were going to prom to have a good time.
Nice. What a great memory. With the same model, I have a similar memory because back at that time in our circle of friends, one friend of mine was the first one to got a brand new car. He earned it with his money with his own, and he bought a E90 limousine. And you know what? This was very funny because we were driving behind him. I thought, we were going to a club somewhere in Hamburg or whatever. And a friend of mine, he just looked at the back of the car and says, "Doesn't it remind you of the surface of a molar, like the teeth?" And then I looked at the car and I said, "Actually, you're right, because it's also a bit uneven in the back. The lights are a bit in front."
Yeah.
So
I know what you mean. Yeah.
we laughed like hell because this guy who really never has shown any interest whatsoever in cars just came up with this design analysis of the back of a BMW E90.
I mean, of course, at the time when the E90 was a brand new car, it was Bangor led the design studio, and it was in a theme with his other products. And maybe it didn't get the reception that it deserved at the time. Yeah. Today, again, with a 3 Series, the older it gets, the more delicate the design gets. I think early cars always look best because it's the closest to what the designer actually wanted to achieve. When cars get facelifted, they get clustered away. They lose the original spirit. But a pre-facelift early car, it's just fantastic. And I just think it's a brilliant looking car nowadays.
To be very honest with you, I'm always been a Chris Bangle fan because all what you told us shows how progressive he was in terms of design. And to give some reference, he was the chief designer at BMW Group from 1992 to, I think, 2009. And some BMW fans and the press complained massively about his futuristic designs. But at the same time, believe it or not, BMW tripled its sales figures and his designs won major awards. I think he was just ahead of his time, as so many designers are. And some revolutionary design elements of the 7 Series, which he and Adrian van Hooydonk introduced, were bullied, I would say, not criticized. I would say they were bullied at that time. And today, you can still recognize them in modern cars, such as the bootlet. The famously criticized bootlet of the 7 Series is now part of a design lesson, standard design lesson, in my opinion.
You're totally right. I mean, even just the daylight running lights that go along the top of the headlights,
Yes.
the eyelashes, you could say.
Exactly.
It's a classic, isn't it? We will turn around now and look at each other and think, oh, bloody hell, he was ahead of his time, that guy. I think it was Boyk Boyer who designed the E60, but that whole team that designed that era of BMWs, oh, you just know that they're going to get their flowers soon. They're going to get the recognition they deserve because
I agree.
Again, like you said, at the time, it was very futuristic. I think there's a question there around whether people are simply just scared of change, isn't there? Maybe we could apply that philosophy to BMW's modern design. You know, how are we going to view those in 20 years?
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, I think if you're a bit ahead of your time, then the problem is sometimes that, of course, the a broader majority will not understand this because they're not used to it. Once they get used to it, you have them on your side.
You're right, yes.
And you can say that you were at the spearhead of a design movement, I would say. And for sure, the guys at BMW also listen to the customers because in the end, they buy the cars or they are the ones to buy them. And I think what they just recently did with Skytop and Speedtop, I think amazing projects, and I'm sure they are sold out already.
The car of recent from BMW that actually stands out to me personally, I think the i7 is a real underrated bit of design that most people kind of don't tend to focus on. But if you spent some time with that car, I was very lucky to have one for a week.
Yeah.
And the longer you spend with it, the more you understand it. And that car came on the back of quite a lot of controversy that was, surrounded the M3 and M4 at the time. And then the i7 came out. Again, a total drastic change from what came before and still a very distinctive front kidney. But yet, it managed to execute it with a certain level of delicacy that I think maybe isn't as common in the luxury car segment today as it was perhaps in the 90s. And I think that i7 will end up kind of aging in the fashion we know BMW's to age, and that again in 10-15 years time people start looking at it kind of going, that is actually a handsome car.
Yes, I agree. Either you like it or you're not, or you can get knowledge about things and understand why certain design elements look like they are, because let's not forget, car makers are under so much pressure nowadays. Road safety, pedestrian safety, which are all great things because that reduces the fatalities on the roads.
I do not envy modern car designers with the amount of red tape that they have to tiptoe around. It's an impossible task.
Yeah. And I think that if we keep our minds open for new things, there will always be great designs that can surprise us and can expand our experience with cars.
I genuinely believe that the best time to be into your hobby and the best time to be into cars is now. There's never been a better time than now. And I do believe that there's a lot of modern design out there that's fantastic today, better than in the past. I think a lot of people look back at the Bangle era cars. The 6 Series springs to mind, the E63 6 Series. Again, at the time, people were not convinced by that car. Look at it now. It's stunning. It has a very unique design language, and in its own way, it looks like a shark, right?
Yes,
which is something we associate with BMWs. Yes. And again, it's something that took time to marinate. So I am of optimistic standpoints. Mm-hmm. It's personally for me, it's quite objective. There's no questions around it. Our responsibility is to make sure that we look after the planet and ourselves.
Yes.
We've never had more choice. You can have any type of propulsion today on top of the 100-year plus back catalogue of automotive history that we have access to. Exactly. It has never been better. It has never been better.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, it's such, this variety in this automotive space is so amazing. But let us understand a bit better, how did you find your place with Candy Showroom in this automotive world? How this all came together?
So the idea of doing something in and around automotive media has been around for a decade. I've spent most of the time trying to be an automotive photographer. It's a complex journey which saw me juggle a hobby, trying to monetize it for about eight and a half years. before I then pivoted from photography. I then pivoted to written journalism, and then I've pivoted yet again to now being in front of the camera and presenting. And this is the thing that seems to resonate with my audience most.
Yeah.
There was a lot of trial and error. And again, in the past, I had a heavy focus on modified car culture. I still really love modified car culture today, but as I've gotten older and my interests and scope have broadened. And, while 5 years ago, I would have maybe just wanted to talk about building custom wheels and modifying cars. Today, I want to talk about all sorts of aspects of car ownership from, like we discussing classic cars and standards, museum pieces that have 1,000 miles on the clock.
Yeah.
So I think Candy Showroom, a friend of mine described it to me as a life project recently, and I think they're totally right. I think it is just a lifelong project.
It's good to know that something will stick to you all your life. If it's something beautiful like your car and automotive project, I think that's a good thing. And what's also a good thing is that, as we mentioned at the beginning, we met at the shores of Lake Como for the whole shebang around the Concorso d'Eleganza Villa d'Este. And I just wanted to point out that we spoke about the future of design and futuristic design, and I think this also applies to a cultural view of the car culture. And what we're going to see is that there's so much change in this, because the Concorso is a very traditional yet exciting event, don't get me wrong, but the organizers doing very well in also making the whole event approachable and set different topics, younger topics, modern topics, that can also be celebrated around the Concorso. So when we see what happened the last 2 years in Villa Erba, the other venue where on Sunday the Concorso moves over from the Villa d'Este happening, and what we see now, Il Festival, which is so great. And this year we had a party organized by the guys from Altrace. And the Altrace Festival in Wrocław in Poland is not exactly what you would connect to a classic car culture event, I would say. But it's just fantastic and different. And seeing all these changes happening with the next generation of BMW enthusiasts, like the Hofmeisters, and so on and on. I can go really like all day long. I think that gives very much hope, and it's also very cool to see.
Yeah, it is.
So, Mike, I'm sure you saw some very highly modified cars parking in front of the Visconti Villa.
Absolutely. I love them. I have a huge interest in modified car stuff, like I mentioned. Yeah. And in our film that we made of the event, we did spend some time looking around those cars and talking about them.
Yeah,
I've attended Altrace 3 times now. Every time I've gone has been absolutely amazing. Poland as a whole, and Altrace, Adrian, the chap who runs the team, the whole team there, just doing an absolutely fantastic job, aren't they? Of making, I think, modified car culture not only relevant in our community, but also relevant in pop culture as well.
Yes, those
guys draw in influences from the fashion world and the music world, which, in my opinion, are the 2 biggest, let's say, cultural entities in the world. If you're into fashion, if you're into music, you've covered off a large chunk of like modern day pop culture. And they're blending that real nice with cars and modified cars. And modified cars have a very specific energy to them, which allow them to be culturally relevant in a way that perhaps, let's say, modern cars aren't. I think everyone knows classic cars are related to, films and music videos and kind of even advertisements.
Yeah,
but modified cars, they add an extra layer to it.
Yeah. Coming back to Candy, how do you choose the topics you're filming?
Interesting question. I have a never-ending list on my phone of things I want to talk about and stories I want to tell, cars I want to drive, and topics I want to cover.
Mm-hmm.
So the BMW film at Villa Erba is a great example. I did not know I was going to go to Villa Erba. An opportunity arose. I had a great client there that I was doing some work with, BMW Welt, and it gave me an opportunity to take my car. So there's a few things ticked off. The film has a purpose. The film has a character, i.e. my car, and it's got a lot going on. There's overseas travel, there's a story there, and there's an event at the end of it which we get to explore. So that, in my head, is already a great recipe for a film. But if we were to remove, let's say, an opportunity, and if we had a clean slate and we have to think of something off the top of our head, I love the idea of speaking about things that are culturally relevant but maybe haven't really had their limelight yet, because the objective of all of these films is to make something intelligent and entertaining.
Yes,
So,
two very important factors.
You know, the internet's amazing. It's an amazing place because it democratized media and entertainment.
Yeah.
So I think that's a long way to answer was a simple question, which is how do we pick?
No,
I think anything that allows me to be creative and anything that has an interesting story attached to it.
So when we speak about your phone list, I'm sure it's like a living object.
Yeah,
and,
it is.
What would be the BMW holy grail on that list? The one car that...
You know what? I'm so glad you asked.
Yes.
I'm so glad you asked because I have
Because here we might be the right listeners to it.
You're right. I have a funny story. So I think it was 2022.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, 50 years of BMW M-Power.
It was 2022 at the BMW Museum.
Yeah, BMW were throwing on this amazing exhibition to celebrate 50 years of M-Power,
Yes.
and they did this by rolling out all of their prototypes. We're talking V12 Z3M. We're talking the original BMW M8. And we're talking E34 convertible M5, right? Real holy grail stuff, you know, real kind of back of the room on a whiteboard, crazy ideas you have late at night. And one of those cars is an E46 M3 Touring, right?
Yes.
Because I love the E46 and I love the 3 Series. I like everything attached to that car. And I think one of the things that the E46 is great is it's a brilliant practical car. I had a Touring earlier in my life, and I thoroughly loved that car. The idea of taking an M3 and turning it into a Touring, to me, seemed like an absolute no-brainer. I am confused why it took these guys so long to make it recently, but it goes to show that they did think about it. They thought
Yes.
about it back in the early 2000s because they made an E46 M3 Touring. So I saw an advert for the exhibition on the internet. I say to my colleague Matt, and this is before we were even making any videos. I was like, Matt, we're going to Germany and we're going to BMW.
Yes.
Matt and I took a week off work. We did a little, let's say, a trip around Germany. We visited Stuttgart, Munich, and Berlin. And in the middle of that adventure was a pit stop at BMW. I rock up to the exhibition, and for one reason or another, I missed that exhibition by a week.
Oh.
Because I never bothered to check because I'm an idiot. So I still went along and I'm like, right, where's the C46 M3 Touring? This is the only reason I really came here. And it was bloody gone, right? Fast forward another couple of years, BMW proudly sponsoring another Wildest. I believe it was last year, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
What do they have on display? An E46 M3 Touring prototype, parked back to back with the new M3 Touring.
Yes.
And what happens? I obviously missed the event. I don't get a chance to go. Obviously, I get to go this year, but that car's not here. So at the top of my notepad on my phone, I have a list of videos, and right near the top is an exploration video about the BMW M prototypes. The dream, I think probably one of the ultimate bucket list videos for me to make is a real documentary style video about these M car prototypes. And at the top of that pyramid is the E46 M3. I think it's a fascinating car. I think it's the M3 Touring, sorry, specifically. So that is my dream BMW film to make there. A documentary about the prototypes. What were they? Why were they made? Who made them? Who was behind them? Why did they not get signed off?
Yeah.
What type of lives do these cars live? Are they just locked away in an air bubble? Is there a crazy engineer, in BMW M somewhere who has even more stories about even more prototypes that the world doesn't know about? I want to share something with the world, and I reckon that documentary could be a good opportunity to do that.
I mean, this sounds like a super plan. Mike, when you film a BMW, you know the claim, one of the claims of BMW is sheer driving pleasure.
Yes.
Is that something you can relate also into the videos? Is that something that you can also display in the video?
Absolutely. I've made, I actually made a film about my flatmate's 330, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, that film did really, really well, really quickly.
That was the prom limousine, right?
Yes, the prom limousine.
Yeah.
I saw on the 330, yeah. And I think that car's got a unique story because it's in my opinion, the best BMW that just doesn't get spoken about enough, which was the whole kind of plot of the film. So when I was driving that car, it had all the right ingredients, right?
Yes.
A great manual gearbox with a very, I heard another car journalist describe it as a knuckly gearbox, and I think that's a perfect way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very knuckly gearbox, it kind of clicks into place, but the clicks are almost rounded. It feels really satisfying to use. It was rear-wheel drive, engine up front, a beautiful, naturally aspirated straight-six engine note.
Yes.
Very comfortable car. but very sporty. The chassis dynamics of it is set up fantastically. It gives you the reassurance you need in the corners.
Yeah.
And I was driving that car and I was thinking, bloody hell, at this price point, I can't think of anything else you can get that comes even close to what this car is offering in terms of driving dynamics, reliability, practicality, economy, and general robustness and design.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably what the marketing team were thinking of when they, when they came up with sheer driving pleasure. And obviously the other super famous one, the ultimate driving machine, in order for something to be the ultimate, it has to be the best at everything.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think that car reminded me exactly of that. I was thinking, yeah, bloody hell, that is a brilliant car and it really is the best in its class. Just end off. There's nothing else that compares at that price point.
And in German, the claim is Freude am Fahren, which translate más o menos into sheer driving pleasure.
I think marketing and the imagery around marketing is the main thing that really drew me into cars at a young age, and it drew me into BMW specifically. I think the BMW marketing team did something amazing. I mean, it took a lot of minerals, right, for your main catchphrase to be the ultimate driving machine.
Definitely.
You have to really believe that.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of balls.
Absolutely.
I remember seeing the adverts when I was younger. I got a stash of 90s BMW kind of press material.
Yes.
And I flick through it occasionally. I have one for my E38. The images in that are just absolutely stunning. And I think it's the imagery that was presented across by marketing. You don't want to admit that you've fallen into the trap of marketing. Nobody wants to admit to being captured by it.
It's true.
But I'll admit it. It was bloody brilliant. I had such a good time flicking through those images. It gave you something aspirational to aim for. I remember being 16, 17 years old, thinking, damn, having a 7 Series, that's the height of success.
I mean, these catalogs were the reason why I was putting the Playboy away, because at that time I was more interested in cars, I have to say. But another exciting thing, besides Playboy and car catalogs, is definitely our little thing called the pit stop. And that means, Mike, I will ask you a couple of questions, but while the pit stop, I would like you to be very brief, and let's see how the result would look like.
This sounds like good fun. Let's do it.
Here comes the pit stop for Mike. Timeless design or cutting-edge innovation?
Timeless design.
Sporty agility or luxurious comfort?
Luxurious comfort.
You're very quick, man. Too quick for me. Black or colorful?
Colorful.
Mint condition or patina with history?
Patina with history. This is a 10-minute topic here. We'll come back to this.
Yes. Customization or factory perfection?
Oh, that is tricky. That is tricky, mate. 5 years ago, I would say customization. You know what? Today I really geek out over factory stuff. Factory and immaculate really gets me going. So we'll go with factory and immaculate.
Accepted. Driving alone or with passengers?
With passengers all the time, any day of the week.
Driving yourself or being driven?
Driving myself. I'm a very, very bad passenger.
Road trip or racetrack?
Oh, that's so hard. We'll go with road trip because it's more accessible for me.
BMW M Performance or classic BMW?
Ooh. Classic BMW.
Autobahn or winding country? Sorry,
Autobahn.
Okay.
Autobahn.
Manual or automatic?
Oh.
Yeah, it's a difficult.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
You know what? We'll go manual.
Petrol or diesel?
Petrol.
Diesel or electric?
Electric.
Engine in the front or in the rear?
In the front.
Inline 6 or V8?
Inline 6.
Buy at auction or at a dealership?
Auction. I can't afford a new car. I can't afford that.
Sell or keep?
I can't speak from experience. Let's go with keep.
And last one. Radio on or off while driving?
On. Always on.
Good. That was the pit stop for Mike. Thank you very much.
Thank
very
you
good.
so much.
Oh, man, we could talk on for hours, but unfortunately, we come to an end. I would not like you to leave without answering this question, which I always find cool because it might help others to live the dream you do or make like the dream reality. So looking back at your journey, and we say it's over a decade now in candy, and before it was also something that you love to do, I would say, in a sense.
Definitely.
What would be, in 2 sentences, what would be the message you would like to share with someone who's just discovering their passion for sharing car passion to a broader audience?
Try as much as you can. I actually, people come to me for advice a lot, actually, and I'm not sure why, because I wouldn't say I'm a gleaming beacon of success, but I think there's something to be said about just simply getting stuff done.
Yeah, it's not about success necessarily.
No, I think it's just about getting it done.
Yeah, and that was the last words, and thank you very much. The last words for now today. Obviously, we will be hanging around a longer time, hopefully.
Yes.
But thank you, Mike, for joining.
I hugely appreciate your time, and again, thanks for chatting to me. I love the podcast. I love BMWs. This is a real good opportunity for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And of course, thank you, everyone, for joining us. It means a lot that you have been all so loyal listeners. And please share the good word out there, because that's the best promotion we can have. And if you have not done it yet, please push the subscribe button and you will not miss one of the Classic Heart episodes and learn a lot for your life, and also learn about your passion in cars, BMWs, and everything that is related to this with guests like Mike. And of course, this podcast would not have been possible without a great team behind it. And that's Friederike von Königswijk, our editor. She makes sure that we stay focused and broadcast something very interesting to you. And then we have our guys from Scenario Studio Munich that take care of that we sound right and good. And then we have our producer, Robin, who holds all the ends together. That means a lot. Robin from Shot One. So thank you very much also for an enduring thank you for all the team. And again, Mike, thank you.
Of course. Thank you. Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye, Mike.
Bye-bye.